Welcome to episode number 428 of Get Paid for Your Pad. Today, I'm super excited because I have somebody on the podcast who has been here before. Episode 198, we talked about Facebook marketing for Airbnb hosts. That was almost 4 years ago, exactly to this day. His name is Niels Becker. He's the CEO, founder of Living in History, a property management company out of Germany. And Niels focuses on rural areas in Germany. And we're going to talk about his new project. He's taking over a very old school vacation rental business in a very old school village in a beautiful area in Germany. I've been there on the Mosel River. And so I'm super excited to talk to Niels about that. So Niels, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jasper. It's nice to be with you on the podcast again. It's been a while, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to learn about what you're doing because it sounds quite similar to what Eric and I are doing in California, just buying an old school vacation rental business and adding our modern technology and our modern, turning it into a modern experience. So, but before we get into that, I would love to read the email that you sent me a couple of days ago or last week. So Niels wrote to me, he said, I always enjoy reading your emails, but currently I read the progress on your property with even greater interest as I'm in the process of taking over a 6-unit property at the same time. It's striking how many similarities there are compared to yours. No vision, no systems in place. And what's even more interesting is how the whole market has a lot to offer, but it's operating with a 1960-ish business model. Mainly as most places don't even list on Airbnb and their marketing effort seems to be limited to a road sign at the side of the road that says vacancies. This way, their operations is basically limited to the summer season. But I'm an all-year operator in my current markets in neighboring regions that are much less touristy. So I envision to be very disruptive in this market once I enter with what I have learned over the past 5 years. So I thought that was a really good email because I immediately understand what you're talking about, right? And this is something similar that we saw with the business that we bought in Idlewild in California. And I love how you're saying it's operating on a 1960s business model with the only marketing is a road sign, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, it's even more striking than that because the other day I really looked out for these signs, and they even have amenities that to us seem absolutely ridiculous. Like it would say hot water in all of our units, or units equipped with WC and shower. So that you would say, well, that seems obvious, but there it's something special. But maybe in 1960 this was still something different, or something a differentiation point that you didn't have to go to the loo in the barn or something.
Yeah, it's like time has almost stood still in some of those areas, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. I think in that market, the vacation rental business has always been like a side business for the wineries, where they say, okay, we sell our wine, and then on the upper floor we have 2 rooms that we can also rent to tourists during the season when people are buying wine, and so maybe they want to stay overnight, and we can keep them a little longer with us. And it's like a side hustle to the wine business.
Yeah.
When I took over this building, the person that I'm renting it from, the investor, she showed me the old contract with the people who have been running it to date, and it has a clause that they're obliged to sell 168 bottles of wine for the old owner who rented it to them. So part of the deal is selling wine. So you can see where they're coming from. It's also a bit ancient for I mean, how do you work that into Wheelhouse or Price Labs?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the region because it's a super cool region. I actually was there it's probably about 10 years ago. You know, I grew up in Arnhem, which and for the listeners, if you're not familiar with where Germany is in Europe, Holland, where I'm from, or the Netherlands, we're neighbors, right? So I grew up
Right.
literally a bike ride away from the German border. So we would go into Germany very often and visit different places. And I have a very fond memory of a weekend trip that I did to the Mosel area, where you have your project now. And I went in, I think it was September, when all those wineries that are there are doing their harvesting parties.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the big attractions during the summer reasons and during the summer season, main season, and you can just go from village to village and experiencing these wine tasting things, contests, and stuff that they organize usually directly on the bank of the river.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the memory that I have. Like, we left on a Friday afternoon, and we literally just drove up into like a random village, or to us it was a random village, and then we learned that there was a big party going on. So we just checked into a hotel and joined the locals, who were super friendly. And you know, we speak a little bit of German, so we ended up partying with the locals until like 4 in the morning, you know, tasting all the wine. And then the next day we drove to another village, and same thing. And we didn't even notice. We just felt like, hey, let's just go drive around Germany for a weekend.
Yeah. Yes, that's usually what the seasonal business is. But after the summer, all these wine fairs or local parties, they just cease and go away. A lot of businesses close down. And so they're like in any touristy area, a low season starts, and then it becomes, you have to be more creative to see how you can attract travelers.
Yeah.
I've been doing this in a neighboring area, which is, as I said in my email, attracts a lot less tourists, but we have people coming all year round. So we usually have hiking people, and the vision that I had for my Airbnbs there is that we concentrate on historic homes, like small village cottages or buildings that are from the 18th century or something like this. We also have a schoolhouse from 1908 and things like that. And the experience is that you have like you live like in an ancient home, which is modernized, of course, and has all the amenities of today, but in like in a little medieval village, so that people from that's our typical guest avatar, people from big cities that come to experience like a weekend, slip into another world, and have that experience and enjoy this very much. And this works actually year round. So even now in November, we're still, I think, 75% booked or something like this. And now we have, like in several units, we have fireplaces. And then so my caretaker, before the guests arrive, they have like a cracking fire in the wood burner. And when people come, you know, they slip into that other world that they will be experiencing for the weekend. And it's very popular. It's working out very well. So if you, I think if you have a good focus on what people might like and what kind of people you might be getting, you know, you can. Of course, it's easier to work in high season because people come anyway. But you can have people attract people all year long. And this is what I'm going for this new project. I'm I was trying to, now I operate currently 6 units, which is not very many, but they are mine. So I had they're all my properties. So I wanted to go a little faster, and so I was looking for buildings just like the ones that I have, but in the neighboring region of the Moselle River, which is a lot more touristy, where I thought, okay, we can obtain a better nightly rate, we can have a much wider demand for clients that will come there. And I had found a perfect little cottage on the prairie on a realtor website. It was perfect, but I wasn't able to close the deal. And it showed then the property that I'm taking over now, but it was love at second sight because it's not within the standard that I have now. It's not a historic building, it's a modern building. And so at first I thought, nah, this is not within our focus. But then on second thought, I saw that this is located right next to a hot spring spa. So I thought maybe that experience of unwinding in the countryside can be transported in another way. It's still, if you want, in our focus to provide that different countryside experience, different from living in a big city. The countryside experiences for hikers who then, after doing a long hike in the November cold, plunge into a hot spring bath, which is just basically across the street from the building. And so far, nobody has noticed this as a key point. There's a lot of there's quite a few other like little hotels, vacation apartments, but nobody seems to cooperate or to feature the hot spring spa that's right across the street. It's just there. So it's not a feature that people think about, because people think about the wine feast in summer, which is probably when you don't want to go into a hot spa or having massages or going to a sauna. You want to be on the open air. But since we want to go season round, all year round, we want to make this a feature point. It's a spring that emerges about 200-300 meters from the building, out of nothing, and nurtures then the hot spa, which is a public institution. So it's like having a hot tub, and you don't have to pay for it, and you don't have to maintain it, but it's still an amenity for your guests. And this is what we're trying to do. So we want to establish, maybe make packages where we say, look, free entrance to the hot springs for our guests, and do these kinds of networking with other people, which is also something that is totally unknown in that market. I have a list already of interesting businesses that are around, which is something I always do. For example, there's like a coffee roaster who roast their own coffee in the village, and so I will have them provide the coffee for us, for our guests, and on the other hand, I send them people to use their cafe and stuff like this. It is something that's not working at all in that market, and it's so touristy, and it seems a very striking thing that people just rather close down than trying to be creative to see how they can work all year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, and so I want to ask you, like, what we see in the US is that since the pandemic, there's a lot of people that are looking for these type of experiences that you are providing, right? The secondary markets, the rural type of experiences. Do you see that in Germany as well, that more and more people are trying to get out of the cities and visiting these type of places?
Absolutely. I started out with these kind of experiences, and we were always looked down upon a little bit from hosts who were in the cool cities, Amsterdam, London, Berlin, Barcelona, or something like this. And then it's, here's this guy somewhere in a remote rural area somewhere. But it has always been interesting for people, because I've thought in the beginning that this would be interesting more for elderly couples who would come to the country, but that was a mistake. I had to adapt the focus of my guests, because my guests are young. They're in their 20s or 30s, and it's attractive to them to come out to the country. And now with the pandemic, this has become like a real hype. I mean, we have been in this business for quite a while. But you can see the curve also for the average daily rate that you can charge, and it springs up it goes like whoosh, up like incredibly over the past year, where we had 5 months of lockdown, But whenever we were able to open up, all places were directly booked, completely
Mm.
booked. And we had restrictions within Europe for travel. And it seems like a starting shot whenever a country was allowed to travel. We had those people, booking like crazy. Belgium, Holland, our neighbors, as you say. We have people from France. And we're now waiting that the Americans should return whenever it is possible for them to travel back to Europe. And what I'm seeing is that actually these countryside or rural experiences are now a hype. See how it lasts and how much substance there is to it. But it has been a sustainable business over the past 5 years already. So it's welcome that it's going even better.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, what's your opinion? Do you think this is a long-term trend, or do you think this is a temporary phenomenon that was caused by the pandemic?
In my opinion, it is a long-term trend. It will lose some of its speed. What's having right now. I know that it will not be the same. Right now, what I'm doing all day is turning down guests who call me, who write me emails, who send inquiries if I have something available, and I have to say no, sorry, we're all booked. So I don't think that will last forever. But the general trend of having a focus on rural areas and that this can be also a nice and interesting stay, I think that this will prevail. This will last.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's something that we notice in our little town in Idlewild in California too, is that we're getting a different avatar than we were expecting. And I I think I think a lot of younger people, as you mentioned, have kind of been forced to discover local areas, right?
Right.
Instead of jumping on the plane and flying to some exotic location, somewhere 6 hours by plane away to Hawaii or South America or Asia, younger people have now discovered, like, hey, there's actually a really cool place, like an hour, 2 hour drive, or maybe like a 1 hour plane ride, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah. And for Europe, I think the best places is wherever you have big cities in a radius of maybe 2 hours car drive. This is the places where people want to go. This is the maximum travel radius that they have. I know that because I do my own statistics. I have always been like a number freak to see where our guests come from, how far they drive once they're there, how far their radius is to do excursions and trips within the area, how far they move away from their accommodation, which is also interesting for me to see when I look for new places in order to find good spots. And I think it is a new travel trend, and it will last. Right now, it's a hype because, as you say, some people had no choice; that they couldn't travel anywhere else, and some people didn't want to go to big cities and be packed with a lot of people, and rather enjoyed being in the country. Because I also try to communicate with my guests what makes them come, and you hear that a lot, that they just want to be out in the open, clean air and in nature. So it's a new aspect that is in their heads now. I hope.
yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. So I would love to understand a bit more about, you're taking over this old school property in an old school market. What are some of you already touched on, like involving the community and, having partnerships with local businesses. What are some other kind of upgrades that you create, that you implement in the market to attract more travelers?
Well, maybe the situation I found when I first saw the building is that this building has practically no marketing in place. I think of the 6 or 7 units that they have there, one was listed on Booking.com. They had a web one of 6 or 7, and they had a website without a booking possibility, where it says, if you like our website, just call us if we have something available. And they have a sign outside, vacancies or no vacancies, for people who just pass by. So that is the whole marketing configuration. And there was no, let's say, the pricing was, to me, was not very understandable. There were small units that were more expensive than large units. You didn't see, because in the industry right now, at least for Airbnb, it seems to be normal that you set a price for a 2 people occupancy, and then if you have extra guests, there's a surcharge. At least this is the way our market works. Here, you rent the unit, no matter if there's 1 guest or 8 squeeze in there somehow. All this is things that seem, let's say, very strange. And then as I walked through the building, I said, okay, why is this room empty? This is a bedroom. There's a door there. It's blocked. Yeah, we had another project in mind here, but we never got around to doing that. So this room stayed just as a storage room. I said, well, it's a very big bedroom. And then I went to another room and said, so why is this room empty? So, and I found about 4 or 5 rooms that could make perfectly rentable spaces that were not in use. So. And then the current people who run the place, they had taken the largest apartment for themselves to live in it. And I said, but this takes a lot of revenue away from you. If you live in this, you can't rent this. Yeah, but it's the quality of life and stuff like that. I mean, it's okay. It's perfectly understandable to do this, but from a investing standpoint, it's maybe not the smartest decision to take 1/3 of your surface for yourself rather than make money on it. And so this is the kind of, I saw these things, and what I do is before I look at places, I always download a monthly subscription for that market on Airbnb, and I showed that to the investor who is actually who I'm renting the building from, and they had never heard of that. They didn't know what Airbnb was. So we could discuss if they have the best numbers, if they're always accurate, if you should rely totally on them. But at least we know what we're talking about. But I was there, the only person in the room who even considered this, because I have to find pricing. I have to know if I have to pay so and so much rent. Or if you buy a building, you have to know, can I make my mortgage payments by figuring out what's the occupancy here, what's the average daily rate here, and things like that. All these considerations that seemed pretty normal to me was something totally unknown. It all was by feeling, by saying, well, we'll charge this and this, and then we'll get along. But to me, it's not the way it should be working. We have tools that can help us to find out what we can expect, and they can do this. I always do this in a very conservative way. So I always do my numbers with a 50% occupancy, although it's at least 75 on average in where I operate places. So I have a margin, and we don't want to, find the best numbers, but we want to do it conservatively in order to find out if it can work out. And it was very strange for me to see it this way. And then I found the building. It was made, let's say, it was decorated, to say it like this, or furnished in a way where we would say it's the bare necessity. What do you need? A bed, a closet, a kitchen, and a table. All right, that's what you get. And there's no decoration, not even a picture on the wall or a plant or anything. It's just that bare necessity. To say you won't be living in this place. So for a week, you can get along with that because your necessities are covered, and things that are pretty standard to me, like a microwave or a dishwasher or something, is not there. So I was very surprised that they said that in summer they still rent out pretty well, and they had some customers when I saw the building first, I think in September or something, they had like a 30% occupancy. So maybe to some travelers that still works, but this is not the way I think the guest experienced, to say this was a really nice place. And when we got home in the evening, it was really a place that we enjoyed staying at, and not a place where we said, okay, it was clean. And that is the only main point. I mean, that's important, as we know, but that's so basic, that shouldn't be the experience the guest takes home. I mean, there is no experience, just that you say, I've been on the Moselle River, but where I stayed, okay, it was clean.
Yeah, it's like you have a bed to sleep in, and you have a shower, and that's about it.
Yeah, you can have your basic necessities covered with the place where you're staying, but I think if you want to provide an experience, it has to be nice. People have to say, oh, this was so nice, and we love the place, and we will come back, and that's the way it works. That's when you see your 5 stars reviews pouring in, and that's when other people book, and it's not, when they say it was okay and it was clean, that's too little.
Yeah.
I looked at the other places that are around me, my competitors or colleagues, whatever you want to call them. They are all like this. So there are very, very few people or places that operate with something more, where we would say, oh, this is very nice. So to me, it is. From the places that I operate, it would be incredible, to say, we don't have a microwave. I mean, that's such a little expense, and if guests want this and demand this and require this, or see this as a basic amenity, you want to provide this. I mean, it's not, it's not something that I would think about twice.
So are you planning to invest in because you mentioned that you're actually renting the building from the investor? Are you planning to invest to get the dishwashers and the interior design and all of that stuff?
We well, where I'm coming from is that I usually buy buildings, the buildings that I have, that are really in a state that are not livable and have to be torn down, and you barely have 4 walls and a roof, and I fix them up entirely. So here I have a building that's relatively modern. I think the construction year is 1960, so it's not not new, but for my standards, it's pretty new. And the building is furnished. So what I want to do is try to conserve part of the furnishings, and the rest just replace it by nicer stuff. And I will have to do some interior cosmetic works, like getting some paint and some color into the building. For example, the water supply in the building comes from the same spring that the thermal spring gets the water from. It's then treated as drinking water. I think that's an asset. So I said, okay, we want to have like these rain shower heads, for example, where we say, because the water that comes out of our showers is mineral waters from a spring that originates only a couple of hundred of meters here from our building. And I think that's like contributing to the guest experience. So what we put in is this kind of amenities, and then since the hot spring baths, the spa is our sales point. If you want to, we want to bring like a water and spring theme into the house, and in our decorations reflect that. Right now, it's just painted white walls, but it's I'm confident it's just cosmetics, in order to give it some life.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, this sounds really exciting. I'm sure you're gonna do really, really well, especially if if your competitors kind of still have that old school mindset, towards the business.
That's what I think. I think I read in your emails that you're planning to fix up amenities in your place as well, and try to bring it to a better standard or newer level, right? That's what I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is what I have in mind as well. To bring the things to a more enjoyable experience, because I know that this will dismark me from my competitors.
Yeah.
Give me a special, because people, as we know, people skip through the pictures, and they will stop where they say, oh, this looks nice. And it's not even to make more money, it's just to get the book better. Because if you see three places and two are like, oh, it's okay, and one says this is nice, the one you book is the one that you think is nicest. And it's not to make to double your rate, but to get a better occupancy. So for me, the fixing up things and redecorating by my standards is just cosmetics, and we hope we will be able to run it quickly. Because for me, what is new, and this brings me to another point that I see with interest from what I heard from you or read from you, is that right now I have to test my current operations. If I can, just how do I apply those for a scaled operation where I'm double at where I'm now, and I do this, within, at one point, I open like 7 units at once, which for me is a lot. It's doubling what I have currently, and I have always been keen in getting my operations well, because I'm a remote host. I live in Spain, and these places are in Germany. So I from the start, even when I had one listing when I started out, I had to see how do I do this without being there. So I had to implement a lot of operations to make the guests say work without me being there, and being able to say, okay, I'm the firefighter here. If something goes wrong, I can just drive by and help the guest, or solve a problem. I couldn't, because I'm 2,000 kilometers away. And so I already started that. And also, since I still have another job, which is my standard normal job, this always was a side business for me. I had to, right from the start, when I had two listings, I noticed it's impossible to answer all these guest communication, and I already implemented, for example, a messaging service for the standard messages, so that guests would, let's say, give me a break, but I mean, they're in their right to ask for information, or have a proper confirmation, or be informed when the checkout time is, and all these standard routines. So I had to do this from the start. And maybe it's exaggerated for someone who only has two listings to already, have like a messaging service, and a PMS, and stuff like this. But I implemented this from the start, because I had to, being a remote host. And I think that's helping me now, because I'm now analyzing, okay, where will I be failing? Because right now it's already costing me, for example, what is not standard guest communication, but guests who have questions of whatever kind of questions they have. That's something I do personally still, and it's also good for me in a way that, because guests appreciate that there's still a personal deal. It's not an anonymous company who does that. But I see, as I want to scale that type of operations, I have to outsource. And, but I'm trying to I'm talking to a person that I already know, and she will do this kind. I can delegate this part of the guest communication. It will still be personal, it just be not me, but another person. But you have to, as you're scaling, you just have to analyze that you won't be able to do a lot of things yourself. And then, but when you outsource, you have to know how. It's not
Yeah.
just doing that. We send this there, we send this there. You need to still have people that you can rely on 100%, and where you say, okay, it will work.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
having the same problem with cleaning forces and stuff like this. And I usually rather have my team, for example, on board. I employ my cleaners, and not I don't rely on a third party service there. And I make my cleaners being like a mini host, if you want to, because they get a small budget from me where they can buy, for example, little seasonal details for the guests, and they can do that on their own criteria.
Hmm.
Yeah, I put some, I don't know, Easter eggs or whatever, or things like that when that is the season in my unit, and they have units that they take care of so that they feel responsible. And that's something that works pretty well. And as we're scaling, we want to maintain that, but we will need to have more people coming in.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's something that Eric and I talk about a lot, as we want to, we want to eventually have like 10, 20 of these
Yeah.
properties under the Free Wild brand. So that's something that we talk about a lot, is like, how do we scale and keep that personal touch, right? Because we do recognize that that's important.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a challenge, because otherwise you will end up as a hotel chain. If it's just a call center where whoever someone picks up the phone, and when people call next time, it's someone else. So I'm trying to for the cleaners and for the phone service, I try to have people that are responsible for a number of units, and only them. So it's only
Hmm.
one person who responds
Yeah.
to call for unit X. And that's how I hope to maintain that personal feeling. It's not
Yeah.
Niels who will be answering the phone, but it will be person A. So
Yeah.
it will always be this person, and she knows the property, and she knows I don't know where to find the bags for the garbage separation, or whatever guests may ask. They will be aware, because they know. That's what I'm trying to achieve and to maintain as I grow. And as I'm saying, for me, it's a big growth, but I know that a lot of big shot short-term rental investors see that this is minuscule, very small business, but I favor what I call organic growth, which is something where you just branch out from very good roots and do this rather slowly than taking over a lot of properties, and then you just lose control of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also maintain that focus, that I want to have that special experience in a rural area. I wouldn't take over, for example, I don't know, a high-rise building in Dallas or something like this, because
Yeah.
it's not within the focus that I know to operate best.
Yeah.
If
That's
I
not.
had a good investor, I would probably buy an abandoned village in northern Spain. That would be a great addition, for example, for what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's more fits more into your brand. By the way, I love your brand name, Living in History. That's a really strong brand name. I like
Yeah,
it a
and
lot.
it seems that as people skip through the listing, it attracts people's interest. At least they get curious what this is and what is
Yeah.
this about. So it does work.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on on your progress. I know as you said, you're growing slowly, but you're growing consistently. And it's super exciting to get an update from you 4 years after you were first on the podcast. So
Okay, so we'll have to wait another 4 years from now and see what happens.
I don't know. Like now that you're doing something very similar as we are, I might hit you up in like 6 months and see how it's going.
How it's going, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it has been a pleasure, and it's always very interesting. I enjoy reading your emails that you send out. I enjoy the podcasts and see other aspects of our business, and I'll always have a takeaway for my own business or for my own ideas, and I think that's a very good it's a very good resource.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And before we wrap up, can you let people know how they, if they want to stay at one of your units in Germany, well, how can they find you?
Well, it's living-in-history.com. And that's our website, and that's where you can book the places that we have right now. We're not sure if we for the new project we will have it under that brand or create an own brand for that. That's something that I have to decide still.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at the website now. It looks really good. Direct booking website. There's some videos on there, which are really nice. So yeah, it's living-in-history.com. If you're planning a trip to beautiful Germany in the near future, make sure to check out Niels's listing. So Niels, thank you so much for your time. This has been super interesting, and good luck with your properties.
Awesome, and the same for your project.
Thank you. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. And we'll be back on Friday. I'll be back with Eric with another podcast. So we'll see you then.